Hey, Shalom. Thanks for watching another teaching of Torah Project. I'm going to try and discuss today, what is human sacrifice? Is it found in the scriptures? Can we see God appeased by any type of human sacrifice? Can we know for certain that Messiah died for our sins and that his blood was human sacrifice? Is there any examples in the scriptures that we can go to where we can see something or someone of righteous value or of wickedness dying in place of a people, a group of people, or a nation, or anything of those sorts? So anyways, let's get to work. Thanks for watching. I'm going to start in Numbers 25, but I want to kind of lay the groundwork first. Zach Bauer did a really good study on this. I really enjoyed it. But I want to elaborate on it because this is near to my heart. I just love the Messiah. And I love seeing types and shadows in the Torah and in the Tanakh. And I'm going to show you multiple examples. I think I have like 7 examples, different examples of people, whether wicked or righteous, substituting themselves for a group of people so that those people can live. And I hope you're blessed by it. So let's get started. Numbers 25, starting in verse 10 through 13. And Yehovah said to Moses, Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, son of Aaron the priest, has turned back my wrath. That's the concept that I really need you to just grasp here. He has turned back Yehovah's wrath from the people of Israel, in that he was jealous with my jealousy among them, so that it did not consume the people of Israel in my jealousy. Therefore say, Behold, I give to him my covenant of peace. It shall be to him and his descendants after him the covenant of perpetual priesthood, because he was jealous for his God and made atonement for the people of Israel. Isn't that interesting? So here's the background. The Midianites come in. This guy from Israel grabs a Midianite woman, brings her into the tent, in the face of Moses, and Phinehas goes. I think he takes a spear and kills them both through making atonement. So the concept is he turned Yehovah's wrath away by expelling sin out of the camp. That's the thing right there, is making atonement according to this specific story, is expelling sin out of the camp by killing someone. And these people were specifically wicked. So let's go to another example. 2 Samuel 21. Let's go to the text. Now there was a famine in the days of David for 3 years. So just a little background. According to Leviticus 26 and Deuteronomy 28, if the children of Israel do not walk according to the commands of God, God is going to take away rain from them. It's interesting that he said 3 years too, because this refers back to Elijah and Ahab too. So, which is interesting. Anyways, let's stay to the text. Year after year, for 3 years. And David sought the face of Yehovah, and Yehovah said, There's blood guilt on Saul and on his house, because he put the Gibeonites to death. You guys know the story. Joshua, they made a covenant together. If you're not familiar with it, and you'd like more background on this specific text, go to Joshua and read it. But let's keep going. So the king called the Gibeonites and spoke to them. Now the Gibeonites were not of the people of Israel, but of the remnant of the Amorites. Although the people of Israel had sworn to spare them, Saul had sought to strike them down in his zeal for the people of Israel and Judah. And David said to the Gibeonites, What shall I do for you? And how shall I make atonement, that you may bless the heritage of Yehovah? So he goes to them. First he inquires of Yehovah, and he goes to them. God told him it's because of Saul's sin and not keeping covenant with the Gibeonites. He goes to them And then he pleads to them, how can I make atonement for you? They have a conversation. We don't want any silver or gold. And it picks up back in verse 6. Let 7 of his sons be given to us, that we may hang them before Yehovah at Gibeah of Saul, the chosen of Yehovah. And the king said, I will give them. But the king spared Mephibosheth, the son of Saul's son Jonathan, because of the oath, Yehovah, that was between them, between David and Jonathan, the son of Saul. And then it says that the king took 7 of his sons, and he names them specifically. And they hung them on the mountain before Yehovah. And the 7 of them perished together, and they were put to death in the first days of the harvest, at the beginning of the barley harvest. You can't make this stuff up. This is what I'm talking about. They were hung on the mountain before Yehovah. You know, that's really interesting, especially when you refer back to Messiah, that he was hung on the mountain before the temple. You know, it just reminded me of it. Plus, they were put to death in the first days of the harvest. That's exactly when Yeshua was put to death. And similarly, Yeshua was the king's son, just like these men were the sons of Saul the king. So, you know, I'm just giving you examples. Let these examples prove themselves out. I'm not here to trying to convince you of anything. I'm just showing you simple examples of what I think that might be human sacrifice and appeasement of God. Sin is being expelled out of the land, and God is being appeased, and his wrath is being extinguished. Here's my point. Back down to verse 14. And they buried the bones of Saul and his son Jonathan in the land of Benjamin in Zelah, in the tomb of Kish his father, and they did all that the king commanded, and after that God responded to the plea for the land. Atonement was made by the hanging of the king's sons. This is my point. This is referring to somebody dying. And you know, I don't want to get off track. The interesting thing about this is these men might have been completely righteous and absolved from Saul's sin. These 7 sons, they might have not had anything to do with it, but they were killed instead. David made a plea with the Gibeonites, and these men died because they were Saul's descendants. Plain and simple. You can't, infer to the text and say, oh, well, they probably were sinful. I don't know that. I guess I'm just trying to be fair to the text. So, but it is interesting that it is a type and a shadow of Messiah, that Messiah made atonement for the children of Israel because they had sinned and were outside of the covenant of God. Let's continue on. Joshua chapter 7. You know the story of Achan. They go in and they try to conquer Ai, and Achan takes some stuff that was devoted to destruction, or harem, and then Yehovah, they go to Ai, and they try to fight against the people of Ai, and then they kill like 30-something dudes out of Ai, and then Joshua falls on his face and asks, why have you brought us from the land of Egypt? If we would have just been content in dwelling in the wilderness. God says, you have sin in your camp. Let's pick up on verse 10. Yehovah said to Joshua, get up. Why have you fallen on your face? Israel has sinned. They have transgressed my covenant that I commanded them. They have taken some of the devoted things. They have stolen and lied and put them among their own belongings. Therefore, the people of Israel cannot stand before their enemies. They turn their backs before their enemies because they have become devoted for destruction. I will be with you no more unless you destroy the devoted things from among you. Look at that. So all of a sudden, because Achan sinned against the Lord, now the entire nation is under the wrath of God, and they cannot fight against anyone else, and they will be defeated because God is not with them. This is what I'm talking about. This is not This is expelling the land, or expelling sin out of the camp. The wrath of God being appeased, and then atonement being made, so that the children of Israel can become victorious, prosperous. It doesn't matter. All these connections and all these examples, they're all the same. God cannot dwell with sin. He is a holy God. Let's pick up. Back down to 25. I just want to skip a couple. And Joshua said, "Why did you bring trouble on us?" Trouble. God's wrath. Why did you bring God's wrath upon us? Yehovah, bring trouble on you today. Yehovah, bring God's wrath on you today. And all Israel stoned him with stones, and they burned them with fire, and stoned them with stones. And they raised over him a great heap of stones that remains to this day. Then Yehovah turned from his burning anger. Therefore, to this day, the name of that place is called the Valley of Achor. This is what I'm talking about, is when sin is expelled out of the camp, then Yehovah's presence dwells among its people, and they're forgiven of their sins. This is what atonement is. And all of it was because they killed Achan. They killed sin. They extinguished sin. Isn't that fascinating? When you think of those, I wonder too. I know this is assumption on my part, but I wonder if this was during the month of Aviv, or the beginning of the barley harvest, when they entered into the land. I don't know, but it'd be fun to check it out. Here's my next example. Jonah. I just love Jonah because it's such a type of Messiah. When you read Jonah, go in there and just think of Messiah as you're reading it, and the page will just come to life. It's just filled with the spirit of Yeshua, filled with the spirit of Messiah in it. It's just so beautiful. Let's start. Chapter 1, verse 1. Now the word of Yehovah came to Jonah, the son of Amittai, saying, "Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and call out against it, for their evil has come up before me." But Jonah rose to flee to Tarshish from the presence of Yehovah, and he went down to Joppa and found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid the fare and went down into it to go with them to Tarshish, away from the presence of Yehovah. But Yehovah hurled a great wind upon the sea, and there was a mighty tempest on the sea, so that the ship threatened to break up. So here's what's going on. Jonah fled the presence of Yehovah. He disobeyed a command of God, and now the wrath of God is upon Jonah. Simple. So Jonah gets on a boat that's going to Tarshish, and then the wind started becoming stormy on the sea. Okay, and the boat was about to break up. Starting in verse 11. Then they said to him, "What shall we do to you, that the sea may be quiet down for us?" So check this out. They wake him up. He's sleeping. He gets up. They're like, "Tell us who you are." He's like, "I'm a Hebrew. I fear the God of heaven and earth. I'm an Israelite. I fear Yehovah. All these things have come upon you because of me." And then it picks up. Then they said to him, "What shall we do to you that the sea may quiet down for us?" For the sea grew more and more tempestuous. And he said to them, "Pick me up and hurl me into the sea. Then the sea will quiet down for you." You can't make this stuff up. Come on. Pick me up and throw me into the sea. Why did he even have to say that? Pick me up. Just throw me into the sea, and then the sea will become calm for you. How does he even know that? Because I think he had a concept of what atonement was. That if anyone that had sin upon them, and God was angry with that specific person, and that person died, or that group of people died, or that nation died, then his sin or his wrath would be extinguished, and the people would get to live, or the person would be allowed to live. I think he had a correct concept of what atonement or human sacrifice was. Picking back up. "For I know that it is because of me that this great tempest has come upon you. Nevertheless, the men rowed hard to get back to dry land, but they could not, for the sea grew more and more tempestuous against them. Therefore they called out to Yehovah, O Yehovah, let us not perish for this man's life, and lay not on us innocent blood, for you, O Yehovah, has done as it has pleased you. I can't help but think of Pilate. These people tried to manipulate Pilate, kill this man, sacrifice, or not they didn't specifically say sacrifice, kill him, hang him, crucify him. His blood be upon us. And Pilate goes, I wash my hands clean from this man's blood. That verse just jumps out at me when I think of Pilate. So they picked up Jonah and hurled him into the sea, and the sea ceased from its raging. God's wrath stopped because sin was dealt with. Sin had been extinguished. Jonah had been thrown into the sea, and the whale had swallowed him. It's just so fascinating. Messiah had been killed, and the depths of the earth, he had been buried in the depths of the earth, or buried in the tomb. It's just so beautiful. So, this concept of atonement and human sacrifice, the ceasing of God's wrath, the appeasement of God's wrath, sin being taken out of the camp, and then everyone else gets to live. It's just so beautiful. There's so many more examples I want to show you guys, but I just don't have that much time. I could sit here for hours. I had a list of things that I had to edit just to get this in all compact in one teaching. Anyways, I just want to show you a couple more. 1 Samuel 25, Abigail imputes sin upon herself and saved Nabal's entire household from the wrath of David. Even though Yehovah killed Nabal later, she still did that. She saved not only herself and her maids and all her maidservants, her manservants, everybody. Nabal, by her coming and preparing all these things for David and his men, and imputing sin upon herself, she saved her entire household. You can't make that up. That's not a coincidence. You can't do that. It says the soul that sins shall die. But David was appeased by it. And David allowed her and Nabal and her entire house to live. Explain that to me. You can't do that. David should have known that according to Torah. But I think he knew he had a real live, correct concept of what atonement was, in my opinion. The next example I want to show is 2 Samuel 18 and 19. Absalom, the son of David, is hung on a tree, and the kingdom of Israel is restored back unto David. Come on! The son of David? Really? Ben David? He's hung on a tree, by his hair, in between trees, by his hair, and then he's riding, I think it says, on a donkey, and then Joab comes and he spears him in his side along with the rest of these guys. They spear him in his side too. And as soon as that happens, what happens? The two guys run and tell the good news to David. What's the good news? Absalom was killed. Absalom's dead. How is that good news? When you refer it back to Messiah, it is good news because our sins have been taken out of the camp. Our sins have been dealt with. God's wrath has been extinguished in the person of his Son. This is so wonderful. And I haven't even got to Isaiah 53 yet, and how he becomes a guilt offering and a sham. And according to Leviticus 6, you have to have restoration, forgiveness, and then atonement is made according to a guilt offering. How can a man become a guilt offering? And even if Isaiah 53 is Israel as a suffering servant, it's still human sacrifice. You're still having the nation of Israel dying for the sins of the other nations. So it doesn't work. You're just hiding behind another tree, really, in the same truth of the gigantic forest of Messiah being our atonement. Anyways, I don't want to belabor the point. Thank you for watching Torah Project. I just love and enjoy to make these videos. I'm going to make a whole ton more. Please go to Facebook, click on my Facebook site, Torah Project, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Anyways, thank you for watching. Peace in Yeshua's name.